This afternoon shir is sponsored by Mrs. Esti Radin, Le'ila Nishmas, her beloved husband, Rabbi Yisrael ben Rabbi Avram, who's a cousin of mine. And Rabbi Yisrael was admired and loved, and his passion was always for Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, and for the arrival of Mashiach Tzidkenu. Yehi Zichro Baruch. Today is his 5th yard site. So may our limud this afternoon be in the schus for the Aliyas Neshama of Rabbi Yisrael ben Rabbi Avram. Okay, Zichrono Livracha. Today we're going to learn from a number of different modern masters, exploring the topic of seeing the good in one another. We're going to start, not with a modern text, we're going to start with Pirkei Avos, the Mishnah we all know from Pirkei Avos. Yeshua ben Prachia v'Nitai Arbeli kiblu mehem. Yeshua ben Prachia and Nitai Arbeli received the Masorah, the tradition, from their teachers that came before them. Yeshua ben Prachia Omer, Yeshua ben Prachia taught, Aseh lecha rav, find for yourself, make for yourself a teacher, uknei lecha chaver, and acquire for yourself a friend, and judge every single person favorably. Now, making for yourself a teacher is an important idea, and all of us have mentors in our life. And finding decent friends and quality friends, I think a social support system is also something that's very essential. Why acquire? Okay. But I really want to focus today on the last part of the mission, which is probably the hardest piece of this to understand, and the most challenging piece of this for all of us, and that is what? How do we come to judge one another favorably? Good afternoon, welcome. So, we're going to just jump right in. And we're going to explore this idea of what does it mean to be dal kafskut. What does it mean to judge one another judge our fellow favorably? Did you get the source sheets? Okay. So we're going to begin with even though this course is modern masters, we're going to hear from a number of modern masters. We're going to begin with a classical commentary on the Mishnah. That's the commentary of the Rambam, because the Rambam's comments on this Mishnah are going to leave us scratching our heads even further, because he's going to challenge us even further. Listen to the Rambam. What does it mean to judge every single person favorably? Inyano kishiya adam shelo teidabo im tzadiku im rasha. What does it mean that when we see a person, okay, and we don't know, it's a stranger to us, and we don't know if this person is good or wicked, okay? Would you see someone that's not familiar to us? And we see him do something. Or yamar davar tifreshu al derech achat yetov. Or you hear him say something that if you take it in one way, it could be understood to be good. Tifreshu al derech acheret yera. But if you interpret it another way, you could say what? It's not so good. It's ra. It's bad. Okay. Kach otel atov v'lo techshov bo ra. What's the halacha, says the Rambam? You have to take that, okay, and if you see someone either do something or say something, and you don't know the person so well, you don't know if he's a good person or a bad person, but if you took it one way, it would be a bad thing. If you took it another way, it'd be a good thing. What's the halacha, says the Rambam? You have to take it and consider it as what? Good. Being good. Okay. But now comes the more challenging part, okay? Aval im adam nodashu tzadik mefursam. But if a person knows that the person that they see is known to be a righteous, not just a good person, but a righteous individual. And he's known for his good deeds. V'nira lo poel shakol inyanav morim shu poel ra. And you see him do something that the only way you could possibly understand the act that he did is that it's something bad. Okay? Ve'ein adam yachol lachriya latov. And a person really can't comprehend that there's any good in what he did. Ella bidochek gadol. Unless he what? Really pushes the envelope to see maybe there's something good there. V'ashar rachoku and it's therefore, even if it's a great stretch, it's appropriate what? that he should take this to the side of good. Okay? As long as there's some minute possibility, says the Rambam, that it could be interpreted as good, if the person is known to be a generally righteous person, what's the halacha? You have to see the good. And it's not permitted to you to suspect or judge him.
May I give an example?
Yes.
My father had a very close friend who he knew as an Orthodox frum man. And one day he's walking along in the city and he sees this frum man walking out of McDonald's with bags of food in his hand, straight from McDonald's. And he said, I know Louis. Louis would never. And yet everybody who saw Louis walking out with this whole bunch of stuff said, Louis Septimus just walked out with all this chaser trade stuff. It turns out that Louis
Going homeless.
He was shopping for the people who worked in his factory. And he was going out, and the people in the factory said, we called McDonald's, could you bring the package back to the factory? And so Louis was just doing a favor for his workers, but everybody else saw Louis.
Immediately jumped to the wrong conclusion. And that's exactly what the Rambam is saying here, okay? So it's an important Rambam, and you're going to see that Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, we're going to learn from in the next piece, okay, before we get to the more contemporary masters of Jewish thought. Rabbi Nachman basically seems to go along and even emphasize this point from the Rambam even more strongly. This is Gimel on our sheets. Know with certainty, ki tzarich ladun kol adam l'kaschu. You must judge every person favorably. Va'afilu mishu rasha gamor. So the Rambam talked about what? Judging a tzaddik gamor, someone that you know is a tzaddik, even if it's pushing the envelope, you have to see the good, right? But he says even someone that's known to be a complete rasha, tzarich lechapes linsobo eze ma'atov. You must look to what? Find some good quality in this person, something good to see within this person. That when you see that little spark of goodness, you recognize what? He's not really a rasha. By the way, this is a vort that we say in the Seder, the night of the Seder. We have the second child in the Seder, in the Haggadah is called the rasha. So what's part of the response to the rasha? The Baal Haggadah haked shinav, right? Blunt out literally means blunt out his teeth, push out his teeth. So says the Belzer Rebbe Zatzal, okay? Haked shinav, so don't read it, blunt out his teeth, push forth, not push out his teeth, push out his sheen. The middle letter of the word rasha is a sheen, okay? A sheen is made up of three stems. What are those three stems? They represent Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Says the Belzer Rebbe, if you take the sheen out of the word rasha, you're left with the outer letters, the outside, which spells ra, which means that what? This child is only ra on the outside. The inside of the rasha is a sheen, which represents Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. He says, even the rush at the city, you have to find the good, you have to see the good, you have to remind him that there's good inside him. Okay, so Rabbi Nachman is going to say the same thing here. Okay, that even if the person is known to be a complete rasha, the halacha is what? You have to try to find the good. And when you are able to find that little bit of good within him, and you're able to judge him favorably, then what have you done? You've actually brought him to the side of merit. Because you as an outsider were able to see the good that perhaps nobody else was able to see. And because of that, maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to set him on the right path and bring him closer and bring him back to Torah. So Rabbi Nachman seems to take the suggestion of the Rambam, the interpretation of the Rambam, a step further, okay, and says that it's not only when you see a tzaddik gamor, okay, a complete tzaddik that does something that maybe it could be misconstrued and you have to judge him favorably. He says, even a rasha gamor, you have to what? Try to see the good. Okay? All right, so now we're going to learn from three four more modern masters, three that are on your sheet. Then this morning here in the library, I actually found a commentary on Pirkei Avot from the Chavetz Chaim. So we're going to end with the Chavetz Chaim, but we're first going to start with the Lekach V'Alivuv. The Lekach V'Alivuv is the beautiful set of Sfarim of Rabbi Avram Shor. We've learned from Rabbi Avram Shor in this forum in the past. And Rabbi Avram Shor on this Mishnah, he breaks down this Mishnah just like you wanted to. He says there are three parts to this Mishnah, and each of these three parts are really a progression. Listen to his words. B'sefer Borachayim bi'er shaychut ha'inyanim. This is Dalet on our sheets. Okay, the second Dalet, the second page. B'sefer Borachayim bi'er shaychut ha'inyanim. The work known as the Be'or HaChaim, not to be confused as the Or HaChaim HaKadosh. The work Be'or HaChaim explains the connection between these three ideas in the Mishnah of Asel Charav, Ukneim Chachaver, Levi Dan et Kol Adam L'Kavschut. Okay, the Mida Zushel Ve'Hevi Dan et Kol Adam L'Kavschut Yuchal Ligrom LaAdam Shia Lo Shaychut Im Anashim Ha'osim Ma'asim Lo Tovim Mipnei Shu Melamid Zchut Al Kol Ma'aseh Shel Adam. Listen to this incredible idea that Rabbi Avram Shor suggests. He says that by being down the chasku, what's the danger in being and always trying to see the good in someone, even someone who doesn't appear to be so good? What's the danger? What's challenging about that? That perhaps what will happen, if you see the good in everybody, so maybe you won't notice that there may be crowds of people you shouldn't be associated with. Maybe people that it would be better for us not to be affiliated with. And therefore you fall into the potential trap of what? Of becoming connected to and influenced by those such people. Okay? The Al Kain, Makti Matana Lomar Aseh L'Charav. And that's why the Tana in the beginning of the Mishnah begins with the words, first, make for yourself a teacher. The first thing a person needs to have in their lives, is a Rebbe. Okay? Someone who is going to teach them proper behavior. And the next stage is what? You also have to have what? Good friends. Be associated with quality people. That's how you be protected, what? From inappropriate outside influences. And once you have those two things in your life, says Rabbi Avram Shor, once you have a Rebbe that guides you, and once you have quality people that you associate with and that you socialize with, then you can come to the third stage, which is what? Begin to judge everybody favorably. And be protected so that you won't fall prey to your Yetzer Hara and become influenced by those who maybe are not so good around you. So Rabbi Avram Shor takes his Mishnah and says, these are not three distinct ideas, but rather what? This is a progression, okay? In life, what do you need to do? Yes, the end goal might be that we want to get to the headspace of seeing the good in everybody. But in order to get there and protect yourself so you're not foolish about it, and you don't end up falling prey to inappropriate outside influences, there's a trajectory. The first thing you need is what? A Rebbe, someone to guide you. The next thing you need is what? Quality friends, good people in your life. And then you can begin to see the world in a different way and judge others and see the good in one another. That's the beautiful interpretation of our Mishnah from Rabbi Avram Shor. Rabbi Avram Shor, just again, as the modern masters, is one of the leading teachers of Chassidut in Brooklyn today. He's the son of the very, very distinguished and well-known Rosh Yeshiva of Torah V'das in Brooklyn, blessed memory, Rabbi Gedalia Shor, whose Sfarim are known as the Or Gedaliahu. And Rabbi Avram Shor writes these beautiful Sfarim called Lekach V'Alivuv, including this commentary on Pirkei Avot that we just learned from.
Shor related to you?
No, they spell their names with an Aleph. We have an Ayin. We're really share. Ellis Island changed us to Shor. And they're Levium, we're not Levium. So, Baruch Hashem, but his Torah is beautiful, and I always like to learn from it. The next modern master we're going to learn from is Rabbi Shlomo Aviner Shlita. Rabbi Shlomo Aviner is one of the great leaders in the religious Zionist world today. He is the chief rabbi emeritus of the Jewish community of Beit El. He's also the Rosh Yeshiva and Nasi of Yeshivat Ter Kohanim in the Old City, and he's a prolific teacher and writer. Hundreds of written volumes of Rav Aviner's Torah, and he has, including a commentary on Pirkei Avot. We're just going to learn a few lines from his commentary on our Mishnah, and he says, "Adam lekaf judging others favorably, hu atzmo schut." This in and of itself is what? Is a privilege and a merit, okay? Al kain tafkidech hu lirot et hatzad hatov shebechol adam. And therefore, okay, our mission really is what? Our role is what? To see the good side within every person. Whether it be in terms of his personality traits, or whether it's what? Taking note of his good deeds. You are required to what? To see everything, every bit of his actions, to work, even if it means, like the Rambam said, even if it means we have to tighten it up, right? To see the good. Hadavar nilmad min pasuk. We learn this from where? The pasuk. But tzedek tishpot amitecha. That with righteousness, Hashem will judge your people. Kilomar einenu mityachim et hamet or mitatshim ota. Okay, it's not upon us to what? It's not about covering up the truth or blurring the truth. Ele rakne chozim b'chol kochenu be'emet hapnimit. But rather, to grasp with all our capability to our inner truth and to the inner truth of what it means to be a Jew. Hamisovevet al hatzad hatov sheb'adam. Okay, and that is what? That to always be connected to the side of good within every single human being. Kol inyan hayachol liparesh mikan lekan. Okay, all this whole idea, it can be interpreted in one way or another. Chovah lifrashol lekaf zchut. Anything that can be interpreted either one way or another. What's the obligation? We have to interpret it for the good. Yesh diun b'she'elah imzu mitzvah sheben ad mamakom or mitzvah sheben ad machavero. Shari chavercha eno yodea ma'ata choshev lav. So there's a machlokus amongst the poskim whether this idea of being down the kafskut is a mitzvah between us and our fellow human being, or whether it's a mitzvah between us and Hashem. Because why? Because our fellow human being doesn't necessarily know what we really think about them. So maybe it's not a mitzvah ben al mechaveru. Maybe it's a mitzvah in terms of between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We want Hashem to judge us favorably, and therefore what? We have to demonstrate that we emulate the mitos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and judge others favorably. Okay. Yeah.
When it says ha'adam, they mean anybody, or do they only mean Jews?
Fair question. It's a machlokes. It's a machlokes mefarshim. There are many that say it's about judging your fellow Jew. There are many that say no, that even a non-Jew. Now, the question is, does it apply to like say murderers and terrorists? And I'm sure that those are the kinds of things that are on all of our minds today. And so I just saw again this morning. I did look this morning in Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau's commentary on Pirkei Avot. Rabbi Lau is the former chief rabbi of the state of Israel, and he basically says that according to many poskim, there are gedarim, in terms of there are limits in terms of how far this principle is pushed. But we have to condition ourselves not to think that way. Meaning, our knee-jerk reaction should not be to criticize and to point out flaws. Obviously, there might be individuals that push the envelope, and for which case it would be okay for us to say no, this person is a problematic personality, or even we do have a pasuk in the Torah that says ubi'arta hara mikirbecha. The Torah tells us to remove wickedness from our midst, but again, we want to be conditioned in terms of yom yomayim, in terms of how we see the world, like this, says Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau. Okay, but let's just finish with Aviner. Haderech ba ata hein charoet zulatecha nigzeret mitkavanat hanefesh shecha. The way in which, and this is the point that Rav Aviner is making, the way in which we view and jump to judge others is an implication, okay, in terms of your spiritual health, let's say. Omar Baal Shem Tov, and he's going to base this on the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh said a beautiful thing that he's going to quote right here. Kol adan chaver l'kaschut me'ir alav adavar shehu atzmo zchut. Anyone who judges their fellow favorably, then that what? It testifies that me, myself, is someone that deserves merit. Okay, b'pnimiyoto hu zchut. Within myself, I am what? A good, decent person. Okay, I'm deserving. Okay, Ke'ilu kav yachal tatzmo hu dan. It's as if we're judging ourselves. Okay, ma shekaroi b'psychology ha'ataka. Projection, right? L'mashal, okay? Matzah mitochech eza sig rash aimbo aimbacha haometz lahodot b'mitziuto. Let's say there's something within us, within each of us, that we really should be working on, but we don't have the personal strength to work and do the work that's necessary for us to get rid of it. L'chein ata matcha mechutza lecha v'sham ata tekufo. Okay, that's why we see that revealed before us. And we're reminded that this is something we actually have to work on. Says the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, if we notice and we see a bad trait, okay, in someone else, what does it mean? It's a reflection that there's something similar within me that I need to work on. So being dan l'fi the Baal Shem Tov, as explained by Rav Aviner, is what? Is not simply, conditioning ourselves to see the good, but it's a reflection on ourselves. Okay? If we're not able to do this, then it means there's something wrong within each one of us. Okay? So just a tachlis example of this, of someone who was absolutely able to do this, we're going to learn now on page 3 from another Mater Master, the third of our Mater Masters this morning. This is a beautiful Torah from the OUisrael Yaakov. The OUisrael Yaakov was the Rebbe of Hasiyatan, Rabbi Yaakov Friedman of Hasiyatan, Zecher Tzadik Kodesh Livracha, Zchus Al Yagin Aleinu. The OUisrael Yaakov came in Aliyah in 1938 from Poland, and he lived the last 19 years of his life in downtown Tel Aviv. And what's very fascinating about his beautiful sefer is that many, many times, number one, he gives us both a glimpse of what's going on in Jewish history at that moment, as well as his incredible positivity towards what was unfolding before him. What do I mean? Again, think about this kufa, this time period where he lived. He came on Aliyah just ahead of the Nazis in Poland, okay, and he lived through the Shoah, the devastation of the Shoah. He came during the time where literally the battle, both in terms of warfare as well as diplomatically, for the establishment of the state of Israel, and he lives through that whole tkufa. And then, once the state is established, the early years of the state of Israel, it wasn't like today where we all have beautiful apartments and we all have one of these things. And right? In those days, people were still living in tent cities. People didn't have running water in their homes. Like, he's living through very difficult times. Yet what's incredible about this particular Rebbe, he's lovingly known as the Admor HaTzioni, the Zionist Hasidic master. He's lovingly referred to as that because of his positivity towards the enterprise of building Medinat Yisrael. Okay? So we're going to now learn a beautiful piece from the OUisrael Yaakov, the Admor of Hasiyatan, and it's based on the pasuk in Parsha Bo, Vayaki tevo el haaretz asher yitein Hashem lachem kasher diber. When you come into the land that Hashem is going to give, has promised to you, ushmartem et avodah azot, and you continue with the practice of this is talking about the carbon Pesach. Vayaki yomru aleichem b'neichem, and it'll come to be that your children will come out and say to you, Ma havodot hazot lachem. What is this service lachem to you? And we all know that this is the question that the Baal Haggadah, we spoke about the Baal Haggadah, and we spoke about the Russia and the Seder a few moments ago. This is the question the Baal Haggadah attributes to the second son, the proverbial Russia in the Haggadah. What is this service lachem to you? As if he's saying, what? I'm not connected to this enterprise anymore. I'm checking out. What is this about to you? So the Rebbe of Hasiyatan jumps all over this pasuk, and we're going to learn this beautiful piece together. Al pi amar yitbaru divrei yesh omrim b'mechilta. He says there's a mechilta, a important medrash on this pasuk that says this pasuk is actually teaching us something very positive. Okay, even though we see it as what? As being the negativity of the Rasha, really this pasuk is teaching us something very positive. Besora tova nibasru liYisrael ba'oto shah. A good thing is being revealed to the Jewish people at that moment. Why? Ba'oto shah shenemar lahem mipi HaKadosh Baruch Hu lashon zeh. Because it's Hashem is giving them these exact words. Vayaki amru aleichem b'neichem mahavada azot lachem. Sh'af ha'omrim ma'avodah azot lachem nikraim gam heim banim. Wow. He says, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, when your children come and say to you, what is this avodah to you? He says, what the Hashem uses those words very specifically. Why? To teach us that even when our children may kind of find their own paths and maybe struggle or step off the path that we've set out for our lives, they remain what? Banim. They remain our children. And therefore it's a reference that not only will they stay your children, but in the future we'll see generations of children. Meaning that they'll be unto you for all generations. And they will never be, God forbid, excommunicated from their roots. And more so, what? That we won't push them away and won't send them further away. Because any lack of faith, any deficiency in their faith is only a temporary deficiency. This is what Rashi tells us. The people came before and they bowed down. Okay, because the fact that what? That the children came and said, we remain your children. Now the Rebbe is going to give us a glimpse. This is 1943. A glimpse of what's going on in Tel Aviv in 1943. Okay, to our great dismay, Chelik Gadol me'anoar be'Eretz Yisrael, a great portion of the youth here in Eretz Yisrael, Ka'asher he nish'ali madua einchem shomrim et Shabbat lefi ha'masor. When we ask them, why don't you keep Shabbos in the same way that our ancestor did? Brit Olam, Beini U'Bnei Yisrael, the eternal covenant between us, between Hashem and the Jewish people. Madua einchem nizarim mima'achalot asurot hamatmeot et halev. Why don't you refrain from eating the prohibited foods that bring impurity to hearts? Why don't you keep kosher? Madua sarta midarche akdusha v'atzniut. Why have you given up the path of holiness and modesty? Shem simanei ha'umah, that are the signs of who we are as a people. Heim meishivim b'mefurash or b'remez. They'll answer us either explicitly or with similar language. Ma havodah zot lachem. What is this service to you? We're not connected to it. But now says the Rebbe, and this is the part I really want to learn. Ulan gam midot tovot yesh b'hem. We have to recognize what? That even those that seemingly have rejected Torah as they've come to Eretz Yisrael, they also have good qualities. Why? Yesh b'hem kibud aveim. They have respect for their parents. Ahavat achim. They love their fellow Jew. Okay, many of them are risking their lives to build up the yeshuv here in Eretz Yisrael. Hakmasat orchim. They've welcomed in people who have been refugees and they've welcomed them to their homes. Okay, Mesira Nefesh, Bara Umav Aretz. They've risked their lives for the people and for the land. Hamidot atavot eila miidot. These good qualities testify, says the Rebbe of Asiyatan, Kalikuim va'kilkulim asher anu roim etzlam hem rak lichluch haover yedei rechitza v'adacha kedivrei ha'Orach Chaim HaKadosh. He says, these testify that the outward impurity that we see amongst them, the outward, things that don't seem so good, they're only temporary. They'll be washed away eventually, as the Orach Chaim HaKadosh told us. Ka'asher Tikuyam Avtachat Hashem Yiparach B'fi Yechezkel. We'll see one day the fulfillment of the prophecy that Hashem promised to Yechezkel Navi. V'zarakti Aleichem Mayim Tahorim V'tiartem. I will pour upon you purifying waters, and you will be purified. Yirek Mumam Eno Mum Kavul. We'll see that whatever impurities they have, they're not permanent. The reality is that for most of them, it's because they just don't get it. They don't feel connected to Hashem. They don't understand the ways of Hashem. Okay, not because they really are bad or impure. When Hashem reveals His true splendor to all of us, meaning with Mashiach Tzidkenu, Kulam Yeshuvu B'Tshuva Shlema. All of them will indeed return with complete tshuva. So you want to see a manifestation of all the earlier pieces that we learned in terms of how do you take all these ideas of being down the kafsud and setting the boundaries, and if there's someone who really personified it, okay, and teaches us how to do it, it's this Rebbe, okay? You can look at the world and you can look at, jump to point out the flaws of people, or you can take a step back and say, you know what? They might be flawed, they might be imperfect, but they also have a lot of good midot. And let's look at the good midot. And let's recognize the good midot as part of something bigger, as part of building the bigger picture. So that's a beautiful piece. I want to just end with the words of the Chavetz Chaim, Zecher Tzaddik V'Kol Bracha. The Chavetz Chaim says the following: V'hinei kol zeh talui lefi hanhaga she'anhig et atzmo b'mei chayav im habriot. All this comes to what? To remind us that really our capability to judge others, okay, has an impact and really defines our entire hashkafat olam, the way we see the entire world and how our life's work, so to speak. Im darko hayta laduno tam l'kaschut. If it becomes our way to judge others favorably, danino to gam came l'schut, then we will also be judged favorably. K'di'ita b'Shabbat, as we learn in the Gemara on Shabbos. V'im darko hayta l'lamed chova al briot l'daber aleim ra. And if our way rather is not to judge others favorably, but rather to point out their flaws and see them as bad, gam malachi hasharet midabrim alav ra lamala. And so to the ministering angels who are going to advocate in heaven, they will also speak badly about us in the heaven. According to Medrash and Mishlei, and that's the famous Medrash, Hamidaber Tov al Chaveiro, okay, Malachi Hasharis Midabrim Alav Tov. One who speaks good of their friend, the Malachi Hasharis will speak good on their behalf in the heavens. Al Kain Sarich She'eda Adam B'Nafsho Be'odo Achayim. Therefore, a person has to know in their neshama through and as they go through life. In the moments when he judges his chaver, his fellow, ben latov, ben lamutav, whether it's to see the good or whether it's you're giving him the benefit of the doubt, as b'diburav mamish hu misader din la'atzmo. And through his words, he's actually also what? Contributing to how he's going to be seen after 120, okay, when he faces his din in Shamayim. My friends, based on everything we learned together today, the beautiful teachings that we learned together today, we see just how important it is, this idea of being dan l'kasrut. We do learn that it doesn't mean to be naive, that it means to just rise above some of the peripheral things that we might see and seek the good. And I hope this material, because for me it's very inspirational material, I hope this material resonates with you and it's something that can impact the way we live our lives and change the world together. Have a great week. Shabbat Shalom.